the Irish guy, and right, when players go out on loan, there's a pressure to perform. If they mess this chance up, then their parent club are probably and rightfully going to assume that they've got the footballing technique of a badger's arse crack. So, lads, this is a warning. I'm going to tell you every Premier League club's one player who's failing on loan right now. This might just confirm to you all that some of these players should have their contracts stuffed in a bin. Right, let's go. Arsenal, Ainsley Maitland-Niles, Roma. Does anyone feel bad for Ainsley Maitland-Niles yet? This guy who spent last summer begging to leave Arsenal on Instagram.
All I want to do is go where I wanted and where I'm gonna play.
Punctuated with 3 crying emojis. I know, it's not exactly the poetry of W.B. Yeats. It sounds like a teenager who's just being dumped on the bus back from the prom. But still, this guy earned a mid-season switch to Roma to play under Jose Mourinho and link up with another London body like Tammy Abraham. I'm guessing being given the chance to work under one of the most brilliant minds in football and getting to live in a city of the gladiators. He's probably doing cartwheels around his living room. But I'm guessing now, he must feel like burying his head in a bowl of cat vomit. Because lads, it's been a disaster. Jose, if you were going to handpick someone out of West Brom's relegated midfield, good Christ, stick it a bit for Conor Gallagher. Because this fella, he's had the impact of banana soup. He made his debut at right back in that catastrophic 4-3 home defeat to Juventus, where Mourinho called his players weak and lacking personality. As far as first impressions go, it's a bit like meeting your mother-in-law for the first time and headbutting her in the teeth. He only made 3 more starts after that. One of them was on the left wing, and now he hasn't made it off the bench in 7 league games. Even in the Conference League, Jose only gave him 5 minutes against Bodo Glimt. Honestly, if this guy is still in a Roma shirt next season, I'll fly to Peru and marry a stray dog on the beach. Aston Villa, Anwar Al-Ghazi, Everton. What was the point in this? I realise Everton don't exactly have pots of cash to chuck about, but still, a panicky mid-season loan deal for a chunk of Aston Villa rubbish? Anwar Al-Ghazi, sure, he was a highly rated winger at Ajax and Lille, but what does it tell you when Steven Gerrard clearly thinks he's about as much use as a piss-soaked postbox? He's been available for selection on Merseyside for 4 months now, and he's played 11 minutes of football. Just like Gerrard, clearly Frank Lampard would also sooner chew off his own armpit hair than trust this slow, lethargic Dutch lump of potato on the wing. I'm convinced this is just a final revenge from Rafa Benitez when he was on the verge of the sack. A bit like when your boss gives you your 2-week notice, and so you then decide to take a poo in the canteen fridge. Honestly, Everton needs scrappers in this relegation battle. This fella, he's just a plump cheerleader who can't even scrape his way onto the bench. Just a modern day Andy van der Meijden. What a joke. Brentford, Marcus FORSS, HULLCITY. The worst thing any Brentford player could have been told this season was that they're being punted out on loan. Honestly, missing out on the Premier League party with all your footy mates, it must be devastating. It's like being the only one in your French class not to get invited to that popular house party. Instead, you're just sitting at home playing Pictionary with the dog, with your mum watching the entire box set of Home and Away, while your sister picks her earwax on the couch with a fork. It's just miserable. And Marcus FORSS, a 22-year-old Finnish striker, he contributed to the promotion. He played 50 times last season, scoring 10 times. It's just cruel. He even started 6 out of the last 7 championship games of the season, only to be farmed out on loan to Hull. Honestly, was Thomas Frank just leading him on? To be fair, it looks like the lad might actually have the first touch of soggy toast anyway, because he arrived in January after just making 1 Premier League start, and for Hull, yeah, he scored against QPR, but that's it. He's only played 90 minutes in a Hull shirt once, and has only been part of 1 win. Was this really supposed to replace Jared Bowen? Brighton, Florinandone, Cadiz. It's mental to think that Romanian striker Florinandone still has a Brighton contract. I think Graham Potter has shown by now that he values you as much as he would leprosy on his feet. It's almost sad to see this 29-year-old striker having his confidence chewed up on the streets by Spanish pigeons. He was once a goal machine for Deportivo La Coruña, but now, after failing on the south coast, he's just a crumbled up spaghetti sandwich over centre forward. He's been on loan at Cadiz all season. 9 appearances, 1 goal, and has been left out of 18 matchday squads for a team stuffed 17th in the league. That's Alvaro Negredo was 7 years older than him. 5 years ago, he was a Middlesbrough flop, and he was recently playing on a beach in Dubai, and yet Andone can't even challenge him for the centre forward spot. Just how? Your competition for the number 9 shirt is a guy who Hull City tried to sign 13 years ago. Come on, Andone. Do you really have feet made of chocolate cake? Burnley, Lucas Jensen, Carlisle. Poor old Lucas Jensen. Denmark have a good habit of producing top-class goalies, but since joining in 2019, this fella has had to contend with Burnley employing about 6 top-class goalkeepers. Price up at one point, they even had 3 English internationals on the payroll. But weirdly, this isn't even the first Danish goalie Burnley have had called Jensen. They had Brian Jensen in nets for 10 years. Weirdly, they're not actually related. Anyway, he's on a loan at Carlisle in League 2. He's played once a 3-0 defeat to Bristol Rovers. and that's it. Chelsea, Billy Gilmour, Norwich. I expected more from Billy Gilmour this season. I mean, this was a Chelsea wonder kid who bossed Wembley at Euro 2020, right? Before infecting 2 of England's players. Honestly, the way the media reacted to that, you'd swear Ben Chilwell had just licked chickenpox off a homeless man's face. But that's chucking a ball-playing midfielder into the heart of Norwich City. A newly promoted team who tried to play like Brazil. Oh, let's not forget, go back to last summer and it was his name, not Conor Gallagher, who is the exciting Chelsea loanee one to watch. But Daniel Farke dropped him after a month. He picked up an annoying mid-season injury, and he's only played in 1 win all season. And now, he's just in and out of Dean Smith's team. This was the season he was supposed to kick on and earn a £50 million price tag. But sadly, he's mostly at the midfield presence of a Kit Kat chunky. Oh, just a bit underwhelming. Crystal Palace, Jacob Montes, Racing White, Daring de Molenbeek. I mean, where do you want to start? 23-year-old midfielder Jacob Montes, born in California, and so should be desperate to crack himself into the USA squad for the World Cup. But I mean, he's just been stuffed on a loan to Belgium this season and hasn't really done anything. Everton, Moise Kean, Juventus. This just makes me sad. Remember when Moise Kean was a £30 million Everton buy? Now, since Dominic Calvert-Lewin has spent most of the season either nursing an injury or wearing a skirt, maybe, just maybe, Everton should have kept Kean at the club instead of chucking him back on loan to Juventus. Then again, I suppose right now, having one Kean at the club is bad enough. You know, the centre back who plays like a claustrophobic pig. But Kean, he probably dreamed of returning to Turin, winning Serie A and then the Golden Boot, right? No. Try 4th in the league and 5 goals. He's been given 11 starts and always gets taken off after an hour into the match. This fella scored 17 goals on loan at PSG. So this is a blunt slap to the ego. An Italian wonder kid centre forward of African descent who's flopped in Liverpool. Are we really watching the second coming of Mario Balotelli? Leeds, Helder Costa, Valencia. Yeah, for any Leeds fans wondering if Helder Costa is doing anything on loan to Valencia, the answer is no. I mean, he was given a 3 out of 10 rating for his performance against Villarreal last week. He's a winger with 0 goals and 2 assists in 29 matches this season. And now he just mostly gets given 4-minute cameos off the bench. Let's not forget, this is a former Portugal international who's racked up £30 million in transfer fees. When he was at Benfica, he was tipped to be the next Angel Di Maria. I mean, first of all, there is no excuses for this. We've seen a winger go from championship football with Bournemouth to ripping up La Liga and the Champions League. But a jump from Leeds to Valencia, and this fella is drowning like a hamster in the bath. Leicester, Dennis Pratt, Torino. Okay, to be fair, when he's played, Dennis Pratt has looked pretty decent playing the number 10 role in Torino's midfield. He's just been injured since mid-February. I mean, he's since had foot surgery, so not ideal. Liverpool, Ben Davies, Sheffield United. Poor old Ben Davies. Go back to the madness of January 2021 and this man's career had blown up. I mean, I'm guessing his Google mentions were through the roof. Everyone trying to Google to see how good he was. Suddenly, having been an unfashionable, low-key championship centre-half for Preston for 4 seasons, now he was suddenly seen as the answer to Liverpool's prayers. Drafted in to replace Virgil van Dijk. And then he never played. So he gets himself a loan move to Sheffield United in the Championship last summer, and yeah, 22 appearances sound okay. But ever since Slavica Jokanovic was sacked, I mean, he hasn't really played much. Sure, he had a hero Roy of the Rovers moment where the centre-half came on as a substitute with just 2 minutes left against Blackburn Rovers, and then managed to score the winner. But really, 7 starts since Christmas. This is a current Liverpool employee on the Anfield payroll. And yet, Jack Robinson, somebody who Liverpool dumped 7 years ago when Brendan Rodgers was at the club, he's still relegating this guy to the bench. I mean, when he returns to Anfield this summer, he'll be too embarrassed to look at Jurgen Klopp in the eye. Man City, Daniel ARZANI, LOMMELSK. I mean, nobody is really failing on loan away at Man City, I suppose. I don't know, maybe a former Celtic loanee, Daniel ARZANI. I mean, he's a 23-year-old Australian international winger and can't get in the matchday squad for SK Lommel in the Belgian second tier. Not ideal. Man United, Anthony Martial, Sevilla. Anthony Martial's career is stuffed in a ditch. I mean, I know why he made the mid-season switch to Sevilla in January. They were in a Liga title race and promised him first-team football. But Sevilla, they didn't count on this guy having the hunger on the couch. He's played 8 La Liga games in his preferred role as a centre forward, right? And 0 goals. He also played just over 100 minutes of football on the left wing as he crashed out of Europe to West Ham. He was even booed off the pitch after a 0-0 draw with Real Sociedad. This guy was brought in to help them win the title. They're now 15 points off the top, and he's mostly at the impact of a broken toaster. Newcastle, Freddie Woodman, Bournemouth. Why bother? What was the point? Freddie Woodman has played more games for Newcastle this season than Bournemouth. I mean, this is a guy who thrived on loan at Swansea as number 1 in the Championship, and so probably thought he'd do the same thing at Bournemouth, right? Nah. Scott Parker has brought this guy in to sit him on the bench. He could have done just that at Newcastle. Wasn't the whole point of the move to secure him some games? No. Instead, he's playing second fiddle to Mark Travers from Kildare. I mean, he's been there 4 months, and the only game he's played was helping Bournemouth get knocked into the FA Cup by Bournemouth. You know, a stain in the history of the club. A Premier League move to Southampton would have made more sense than this, because let's not forget, right now, he's in the same career position that Fraser Forster was in 2006. I mean, he could have been Southampton #1. Not anymore though, and this is just a complete waste of time. Norwich, Todd Cantwell, Bournemouth. I had high expectations of Todd Cantwell, but now I feel like he's hustled all of us. This guy was an ARZANI gem 2 years ago, and I thought I moved to Bournemouth mid-season on loan, and he'd be the creative spark to help Scott Parker's boys to the title. Nah, he hasn't really done that much. A few pretty touches here and there, but 0 goals, 0 assists, and he started 1 of the last 6 games. And he hasn't actually completed 90 minutes in a Bournemouth shirt since early March, and he was also part of that feeble embarrassment of players who lost to Bournemouth. Again, this guy 2 years ago was getting bigged up by Thierry Henry, but now he just looks a bit like a lost Barbie doll. Southampton, Dan Ndululu, Cheltenham. Southampton only have 1 guy on loan, French forward Dan Ndululu at Cheltenham Town. I don't watch Next, Tottenham tanking the ball in Lyon. Let's not forget, this is a loan return to Lyon, but there's an option to buy for 65 million euros. How can Lyon possibly afford that? I mean, has he been worth it? No! The first time Lyon had this guy, he was bossing the midfield in the Champions League. But now, just like Anthony Martial, he was also part of a spineless bunch of footballers booted out of Europe like Craig Dawson's skull. I mean, in Ligue 1, he's played 7 times, winning 2, drawing 2, and losing 3. For a 25-year-old French international with such a monster price tag, oh, it's just underwhelming. After this limp return to Lyon, there's more chance of the Lyon president vomiting a television out of his throat than there is of Lyon paying the 65 million quid. Watford, Ashley Fletcher, New York Red Bulls. Ashley Fletcher is a striker who spent 7 years of his life on the books of Manchester United. This guy probably grew up with a poster of Danny Welbeck on his wall, and probably looks at Marcus Rashford with a pit of jealousy in his groin. Manchester United must seem like a million miles away now, because at 26, he's just been loaned out to New York Red Bulls. But to be fair, that's a club who also took another Manchester-based centre forward flop, Bradley Wright Phillips, and made him an MLS legend. But Fletcher, so far, he's been given 5-minute cameos off the bench in his first 3 games, and just played over an hour in a 0-0 draw with Dallas. I mean, I know it's early days yet, but he's a former Manchester United employee. Oh, he should be eating this league for lunch. Not good. West Ham, nobody. I mean, West Ham only have 1 player out on loan this season, Connor Coventry, and he's doing pretty well, bossing the midfield on loan at MK Dons. So next, Wolves, Adama Traore, Barcelona. Okay, to be fair to Adama Traore, he started well when he swapped Wolves for Barcelona in January, chipping in with 2 assists in a 4-2 win against Napoli in the Europa League. And he also got assists in his first 2 La Liga matches. But since then, he's tailed off and typically has the end product of a sponge. And now Xavi has just lost patience, giving him just 10-minute cameos off the bench. This was his audition to get a permanent move back to Barcelona. Instead, it looks like he's getting a summer switch to Everton to become the modern day Yannick Bolasie. Another big money flop. Sorry Adama, but you blew it. Anyway, that's what do you think, right? Let me know in the comments below what do you think. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to subscribe. As always, talk shit a while.